My dear Bagginses and Buffins.
By the blood of our people, are your lands kept safe?
I see in your eyes the same fear that will take the heart of me.
So do all who live to see such times.
By all that you hold dear, this good earth.
There's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting.
Welcome back, everyone. We are continuing with Season 2, Episode 2 of The Rings of Power. They were all dropped at once, but we're doing one episode at a time so that we can really get into the details and talk about it. So let's get into it. We didn't see anyone from the dwarves to Numenor, or even the people of the Southlands inside Episode 1. And so here we go. We kick things off with the dwarves here in Episode 2. Well, we do get some fun scenery shots and map shots, I should say, on the opening credits. But we get to Khazad-dûm right off the bat.
Yep.
And it's interesting to see this little dwarf market, I will say. I do like the production here.
I agree with
pretty
that.
fun.
Yeah.
It's something that I've thought about, because it's like, how did the dwarf society, operate? Like they must have a market or like a town square underground, so it is kind of cool to see it. And yeah, I do find it strange though that the prince and the princess are out buying food, but
they're outcasts now.
Well, not only are they outcasts, but we also saw them kind of cooking. Like, they don't seem to have servants in the same way that we expect a human king or prince to operate on. Like, even in Season 1.
I mean, it'd be a lot more intimate. You probably like you in other societies you might not know the king, like you wouldn't personally know the king, but in this one you're living in a little cavern. There's only so many places you can go.
That's right.
You probably know your king on a personal level.
Exactly, and I think that's this is actually good world building from the show, is that they're showing us dwarf society, and it's teaching us based on these small scenes without explaining it, like just talking to the audience. So it's kind of neat to see. And then we get like Disa knows right away, because she can kind of hear the mountain is making a noise. And so right away she sees it.
Durin's grayer in the beard, I think. So
you're right.
I have this impression that it's further ahead, but not with the rumbling. I'm wondering, is that supposed to correspond with Mordor erupting in the timeline, or is this just like random After Effects?
No, see, this is my problem. Is like, exactly, I don't know when this is. I just thought this was a random, like.
That's what I thought too, but now that I have like establishing timelines on the mind, and they blame Mordor for the cave-ins.
They do. You're right. They were like, oh well, there was an explosion in the south, and all these mountains are connected underground like roots, and so it affected us and all this stuff. And so you're right. Like, maybe you're right. Maybe that is that moment, and we were almost seeing a flashback of when he was first disinherited by his father.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact sequence.
I don't think they mentioned it. I don't think they actually mention.
I don't even know if doors are seen from the eruption onward. I don't know. And I mean, there's also the potential these earthquakes are being caused by the Balrog, too.
So that's where my thought went. But also at the beginning, the title scroll, the map. So that we see the volcano, and then the map. Has like a black...
it shows the volcano erupting on the map, doesn't it?
Right, and then it has a black smudge go all the way to Khazad-dûm. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's just like the effects of evil rising have reached them via the Balrog, or via Sauron going back to Eregion. I don't like it could be interpreted so many different ways. But yeah, so the dwarves are having their issues with the mountain. Durin the Fourth is still disinherited. Him and Disa have to live within their means now, and so You get some interesting dwarf society thrown in there, which I think is actually good.
It's screwing up with their light system.
Oh yeah, they have a cool light system that we saw in the Mummy, I believe, right? Isn't that in the Mummy? Like the mirror.
Oh, with the mirrors, yeah.
And then that's it. That's just like a little intro prologue, and then we cut right back to the elves because the elves are the main characters, not the dwarves. We don't get to do that much dwarf stuff. We gotta cut back to, this is a flashback, right? Or it's a dream. It's a dream sequence.
It's a dream.
Yeah, it's a dream sequence.
Because I think it is contemporary, because she's surprised that Celebrimbor is already there.
Oh, that's right. You're right. It's a dream sequence. And, oh yeah, because he gets like pinned to a tree and like he's like going evil. And,
yeah.
And then it's like, then Galadriel's starting to have some hesitation about these rings. I should have listened to Elrond. The rings are contaminated. We can't use them. I mean, it's probably lore. I don't actually know. The elves probably did discuss whether or not these rings should be used because of Sauron's involvement. I didn't expect it to be this much of a debate. So it's interesting to see how much these characters, some of them, are having problems with the rings or not. And we're gonna get to Celebrimbor eventually, because you'll be surprised. Stay tuned. You'll be surprised how I feel about this character. But yeah, we see him here in this dream sequence as Galadriel's kind of like daydreaming or like having a premonition or something. Because she's not asleep, she's awake. So it's. I'm not really sure what to make of this, but she's now having some different thoughts, and Gil-galad recognizes this. I will say I've started to like Gil-galad a little bit more in this season. I know I've given him a hard time for not being more mad at Galadriel, but that's not the actor's fault. I think he's doing a good job of having this like elegant, regal elf for the most part. There are moments where it kind of slips, but for the most part, I think it's pretty good, and just the way he conducts himself. It's not quite Elrond. Elrond was a little bit nicer, but there is this air, like Elrond had this air when he was walking through Rivendell, the same way that Gil-galad has, where like he's like master of this domain, and you know, not that everyone needs to like bow down and kiss his feet, but like people need to show him respect if they want him to listen to their problems or to have him help them. So I do like what this actor's doing. I didn't really like him in the first season, but I'm starting to come around on him. And this scene is one in which I think that it shows that the actor's actually getting into like the serious nature of his character and like really like getting in there. But I don't like the scene again. Like we've kind of already established this stuff, I guess. That I'm kind of confused by what we're doing with it. Yeah, like that's my take on it. I just don't quite get what we're doing here with Gil-galad and Galadriel when we already were talking to them in all of the first episode. So yeah, I guess we jump from there.
She comes back from her vision, and they're in a war council meeting.
Yeah.
They're planning on attacking Mordor, and yeah, Galadriel has gained ability to see flashes of the future since putting on the ring, and yeah, she's saying Sauron's gonna want to craft rings and needs Celebrimbor. So this is, I guess, the foreshadowing that we need to get to Celebrimbor. So Galadriel wants to go to Eregion, but Gil-galad is worried that since the Deceiver knows her too well, they were friends, that he'll be able to alter reality, since he has gained his trust. So she can't go alone.
Well, yeah, and that's my thing, is like, we already kind of established that in the first episode. Not that we were going to go and attack Mordor or whatever, but just like we've established that Galadriel probably shouldn't be anywhere in the vicinity of potentially interacting with Sauron again, and so she shouldn't be involved in this.
I mean, maybe there's gonna be something interesting. Like maybe she has the chance to take a shot at him.
No, from an audience point of view, I completely agree. But
and she doesn't take it. Like maybe, maybe this is actually because they're going. I mean, that's gonna be episode 4, I'm sure.
No, I know, I agree. Yeah. But like what I'm saying is so that's from an audience. Like if you and I want to see that unfold, I agree. But if I were Gil-galad perspective, number one, she doesn't get a ring because she's a traitor, and we already established that because she has already interacted with Sauron in a friendly manner, she's more likely to be corrupted. And if we think there's even a hint that these rings might corrupt, she probably shouldn't have one. It should probably go to someone else. That's all I'm saying. So the fact that she not only has a ring, but she is also allowed to go back to Eregion, where we think Sauron might be. They want her to do this stuff. I think there's a better way to do this, and that is to have her, like you brought up last episode, which is have her once again go against the wishes of the elves, but eventually right her wrongs, and fix things, and get her back to where we know her from the Fellowship. But right now, again, she's done a bunch of bad things, and she might be corrupted, and still we're gonna send her into potential more danger, and her the only solution they have is we'll bring Elrond as well to like talk you down from like getting corrupted.
Right.
I don't know. I think there's a better way to do all of this that makes a little bit more sense from Gil-galad's perspective. But I do like the War Council and talking about fighting the orcs. It's interesting that they have a War Council, but somehow the orcs are... I mean, we're not there yet, but we will find out in this episode, I believe, that the orcs... or somebody is intercepting messages. I mean, it's already... I believe you can already infer, simply by Halbrand showing up to Eregion, that the messages are intercepted.
I mean, I don't know, because he's actually very rushed. He's like, no, we need to make these rings now. We don't have time.
You're right. He is rushed.
So you really get the impression that maybe those messengers dying was just a coincidence.
No, but there's no... Okay, but then again, this is my whole thing with Sauron. His plan is silly. Why not intercept these messages? Is that impossible?
He didn't have the manpower.
He didn't have
He's just.
But that he was in. He can speak black speech. He could corrupt some orcs or something and like drag them. I don't know. It's just... You're right. He does seem rushed. Like we literally cut to a scene here right after Gil-galad and Galadriel. We cut to a quick scene where Celebrimbor is talking with like one of his, maybe not servant, but like assistants or something, and she's saying that like Halbrand, he's injured and he's asking for you, and he's like, no, I told Galadriel I wouldn't, and I will honor my word, and so he doesn't go to meet him. But then we cut to dead messengers. So like, to me, it's implied that he did have a hand in it, but you're right. His mannerisms are like, no, I gotta get these rings done. Messengers might be on their way. So who's killing messengers? Like it's
I mean, it's a violent time, you know.
Oh yeah, these elves.
Like, I think he got lucky. Like,
oh man, imagine watching the Fellowship and being like, okay, the only reason this is happening because that guy got lucky one time when he went back to Eregion after trying to seduce Galadriel, and it didn't work. And luckily, no messengers showed up.
Yeah, they died randomly
of natural causes.
Yeah.
See, I to me, the way they shoot this is it's implied he had a hand in it, but we don't see that, and it's not clear how he would have, because how would orcs sneak into this path and kill? Like, elves normally have a pretty good...
Because, I mean, from what Adar and the orcs know, like, they think Halbrand has the trust of the elves when he actually doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Halbrand lied to them. Like the orcs would be wondering, well, why do we need to kill these messengers?
You're absolutely right. You've literally you're absolutely right. Like if that.
So I think it's coincidence. They just died.
Okay, but. But. Okay, so they died, and
it just really worked out for Halbrand.
Oh boy. Yeah, I hope I don't normally want explanations, as you know, but in this case, we need one. Because you're right. Either the orcs who believe Halbrand is Halbrand and has the trust of the elves has now asked them to murder elves for him, in which case the orcs will be suspicious, or the elves died from some random thieves in the woods, and it's just lucky for Halbrand, or Halbrand himself did it. Now, maybe he did it, because he does have a scar on his back, but that also could be from Waldrig torturing him. So, You're right. There's three options here, and we need to know which one. I think it's either the orcs doing it or Halbrand doing it, and if it's Halbrand doing it, that's also kind of odd.
I mean, I don't think it couldn't be a coincidence. I mean,
you're right. It could be. It could be.
It was kind of reckless for Gil-galad to only send like 2 messengers.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Like
there's no concerted effort to intercept. This was just a bad idea to only send 2 people.
And then it was a bad idea for Halbrand to go back and try his crazy, I'm gonna make rings really quickly.
Yeah, it just worked out. Yeah.
All right. So, I hope we find out, because I need to know. This scene, it's a plot hole almost either way, and I need to know which one it is. Anyway, so, yeah. So I think the next thing to cut to would be
this. Maybe the masked desert riders.
Yes, and they are showing up.
I have Caras Gair written down. It's a western ruin.
Yeah. Oh. Caras Gair, and it's in Western Ruin. And there's this wizard, or not a wizard, because the wizards are the 5 wizards. There's a mage or a magic user. And
yeah, some sort of warlock thing going on.
Yeah, now he is in like a cult of Sauron, right? Because he sent these people to find Sauron, and they believed that the stranger was Sauron.
Yeah, if I recall, that was what was going on.
Right, you know. So this guy must also want to find out who Sauron is. He must be some sort of disciple of Sauron's from back in the day, that he's just continued this thing. Again, it begs the question, why didn't Halbrand seek these people out? But maybe he doesn't know they still exist. Maybe he doesn't know he doesn't want to waste time going all this way if they're not in operation anymore. This scene is kind of, I'm intrigued by this, to be honest, because we don't really know anything about Rune or East, at least from a cinematic point of view. If you're just following along with the Peter Jackson trilogies and then this show, so I'm interested to see where this goes. And this cult seems like weird and intense, and you also have not only is it like a cult, but they also have hired, so they have acolytes, they have assassins, and then they hire mercenaries, the whole thing going on here.
Yeah, and they have the moths are there, so that's how we know that these are the same as those mystics from the season 1, because when they died, they burst into a bunch of moths.
Yeah, and then one of them reforms.
Yeah, he resurrects them. He cuts his hand, blood comes out, and then they reconstitute the mystic. Now,
so did they turn themselves into moths, or did Gandalf or the stranger turn them into moths?
I don't know. I thought Gandalf did, but
Now I'm wondering if like it's one of their powers, like they can become moths, but like then someone has to like, I don't know, bring them back or something.
Anyway, the Dark Wizard's not happy with their failure.
Yeah.
And she reports on Sauron being around in the south. And then they do call Gandalf an Eastar.
Yeah. Which they had done that in season 1 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, right before they died.
Right.
Yeah.
They were like, "You're not Sauron, you're an Eastar."
Yeah.
Is that what happens?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right before they died. Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, so
So
we know he's a wizard. Or at least we know they think he's a wizard.
And the messenger says that he's going to use the halflings to like manipulate him and kill him because he'll want to save his friends.
Right. And then we cut to the halflings and the stranger.
And oh yeah, they're trying to pick a name for Gandalf.
Yeah, and they come up with some names here, and they're also they're not lost, but they see a path that they might take, but it seems not a great path. It's got a very should we go through the mines type moment.
And Gandalf's reluctant to conjure water because he's worried of his powers getting out of control.
Yep.
And then they have they talk about needing a wand, but they use the word Gand, and I'm like, is that where Gandalf comes from?
So that I literally didn't even put that together, and then I randomly saw a article on Google News or something like that, and it was someone saying, "Did they just reveal who the stranger is?" And then that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, they call it a wand a Gand.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like Welsh for wand. I don't know.
Or Hobbit for wand, or Harfoot, I guess. Yeah. So, so that's why we think this is definitely Gandalf at this point. Not only is he in the Starry according to the cult of Sauron, but he is searching for his name. They keep saying Gand, and he's like, once I hear it, I'll know it. Now the problem is Gandalf has many names. From all different societies. So it's not like Gandalf is like his one chosen name.
No, because he even has like I don't remember it. I should look it up. But he has his god name too.
Yep,
like
and then he has like every culture has a different name for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, the name thing's kind of odd, but we do get a little bit of a tense moment here when these assassins or like swords for hire masked sword dudes show up and they're hunting the Harfoots, and we get to see once again the Harfoots ability to hide really skillfully, which is I think it's the fact that they did establish that and then they use it here, it works really well versus like having the magic elf cloak that Sam and Frodo have when they in Two Towers, when they come up to the Black Gates and they fall down the mountain and then they cover themselves and they look like a rock. That you have to say, okay, it's a magic cloak. But here, because we know the Harfoots are skilled at blending in, it's not out of the question that they could easily just jump in here and like make it look natural. The fact that Gandalf was able to do it is pretty remarkable because he just kind of hides behind a shrub and like covers.
They don't even show it really. I don't remember it.
He's literally you can see him. He's hiding behind a shrub and he's like peeking through the shrub and you can see everything. Whereas the Harfoots are like in a you can't see them at all.
This wasn't in my notes, but I think I watched it when I rewatched it without taking notes, just casually as background. Did it mention that those riders, they had this they have like leprosy or something? That's why they wear those masks, and they're gonna go get Gandalf in exchange for this wizard.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you're right. That does ring a bell. I don't quite know what's going on there.
But that's why they're wearing those. That's why they're wearing those masks, because they're deformed.
I thought it was just because they thought the masks looked cool. Like
yeah, potentially.
Yeah, but no. I think you could be right. I do remember some sort of like we have a deal or something like that when they're talking to the Dark Wizard. So so we got some interesting stuff there. So that makes Gandalf and the Harfoots choose the different path than the one they were going down. So it's very similar, like, oh, we now have to go through Moria type of moment. And now we're back with the dwarves, and we get to hear more about these dwarf stone singer women and how they operate. It's there's some cool stuff here. This is where they mention that Mount Doom erupted, and that's what's causing the mountains to have a bit some earthquakes. Like it's woken up the magma underneath the earth or something to that effect.
Yeah.
But we're going to use these dwarven singers to find where the mountain is solid, and we'll dig there. That's the idea.
But it's not working anymore.
No. And so Disa is one of like the best, and so she's going to come out of retirement and try. Well, I'm not. It's a joke, but also like she is a princess now, right? She's probably not like doing this all the time anymore. I just assumed, but I think they established that she was one of the best in season 1. I think it was like she's like the best stone singer. So now we get to see her in action, and it's still dark out because we have no light now in the dwarven catacombs, and so they're trying to find. They got to dig for light so that they can grow food. So
but and her skin causes a more cave-ins, which closes off another light shaft, so it gets even darker.
Yeah, they kind of goofed this one a little bit, but it is cool. I do like the production.
And there's also discussions amongst the because Disa shuts off the other two dwarf women. Yes. Because they're talking about how we're cursed and it's your husband's fault and stuff like that.
Yeah, and but we get to see really Khazad-dûm looks amazing in this view as we pan across it as they're singing. And you get to see they have a water wheel bringing water from the mountain, and have where they would grow stuff. I just like seeing how they've designed this dwarf city, because we never got to see in either the original trilogy or the Hobbit trilogy dwarf society actually functioning. I know right now they're going through some issues, but we at least see how they might operate it once it's working properly. So it's really cool to see. The king doing a great job here. I do like the king here, King Durin III. And Disa and him have a great interaction. Disa, this actress, really stepped up. She got a lot of flack, I know, in season 1, and the whole her costume design, lack of beard, all this stuff. But her and King Durin III, they have some great back and forth here. I think she's doing a great job of getting that powerful voice that dwarves have, and she's able to get it on that same level as everyone else here. So good on her. I think she gets way too much flack for stuff out of her control as an actress, unfortunately.
And Durin says to her that he only spoke in anger, but he still refuses to apologize.
Yeah, it's the classic, they're both stubborn men and they're both sorry, but they don't want to show emotion, so they're not going to. Neither one is going to apologize or make the first move.
Yeah. And then we see Durin the Fourth mining again, and his hands are getting blistered, and they're making fun of him that he has palace hands. He's been just polishing jewels his whole life.
But see, this is where I get a bit confused because
he has that face off with Elrond, and he's really good at hitting stuff with hammers.
Right. So okay. So it's not just me. So all right. Up until this point, I have praised the dwarven society that the world building they've done. This is the first moment where I'm confused. Number one, yes, he's disinherited. He's still a prince. You can't punch a prince. Now, maybe it's a different society. I'm willing to go along with that. But what I'm not willing to go along with is that Durin the Fourth has not mined before. He literally is mining Mithril.
Mithril secretly,
secretly by himself with a handful of other men or other dwarves. And he's doing a lot of the work to get Elrond the Mithril. So it's not like he's not done this before. In fact, the lie that Disa comes up with is that he's on a mining expedition. That's why he's not around, and that Elrond sees his hammer and chisel on a wall, which means he has tools that he grabs on a daily basis off the wall to go mine. He is not just a princeling. They can't just switch that on us. So I'm fine if he gets in a fist fight. I think that's actually kind of cool. That's badass of these dwarves to like punch their prince. Like, I don't care, you're a prince, you're just a random miner here. Punch. I'm fine with that. Love it. Don't tell me this guy hasn't been mining and that he's a weak dwarf. I don't get that. Why are they doing that to this guy? That's not right. Have him screw something up and then have him be like, oh, you're no longer in charge of this operation. You're just a normal miner, and maybe he gets in a fist fight that way. I'm fine with that. I just don't like the insinuation that this guy isn't a hard worker. I don't know. It seems disrespectful to me.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So he then comes back home with to Disa, and they have to talk about how like life is a struggle now, and I don't know that like there's moments here that's great, and there's other moments where it's like, yeah, life is a bit of a struggle, but you are a prince. Like you probably have a lot of stuff that you could either sell, or like you have this massive house, or I don't know if they call them houses in dwarf society, but you live in a place that has a lot of space, and you probably have a lot of items that you had when you were a prince, and it's not even like he's tried to get back in good graces with his father. He's literally like, no, I'm not apologizing. I don't care if I'm poor and destitute. I was right. And I don't care about my family. If my family's struggling, oh well, I was right. And that's what matters. So, I don't know. There's moments where I'm like, okay, I don't really get the idea. But, you know, sometimes people act like that. Sometimes people are so stubborn they go against their own self-interest. So, I give it a pass on this. I think these two actors are doing a great job. So yeah, I'm fine with this scene. I actually kind of like these meal scenes between these two. We had a lot of them in season 1, so I do like that we are keeping that going, because it does give you that like, you get that familiarity, and you also get to see like you get a lot more sense of like society from how they conduct themselves at the dinner table, and you get this closeness that you don't get when they're out. When you're out in public, or when two people are talking in like a public setting, there's a bit of a performance here, but this is them at their most honest when it's just the two of them. So I do like seeing that. I hope we keep going with that as well. And Disa, again, coming in strong with some hot takes, but she's ultimately right that these two need to get like work together and work this out. Like, regardless of whether or not they're struggling financially, it's more about the fact that, you know, he needs to help his father see the light in some situations. His father's very stubborn and is classic anti-elf as a dwarf. So, so Disa's right here that we need a bit more open-mindedness in the dwarven high society. And I love also the cut from Durin the Fourth. We jump right to Elrond,